From the Action Network. Simon, do you hear me now?
Crystal clear, brother.
There we go. Now we got you. So, Simon, as I was saying before the break there, you host the Favorites podcast with Chad Millman, and I want you to take me through this weekend. You were talking about how this has been such a crazy couple of weeks in the NFL, and take me through maybe how you adjusted your week 2 picks from week 1, and what were some of the things that you were looking at to target in week 2?
I would say the biggest thing is you're always looking for people overreacting, right, to week 1. So the one that really jumped out was that 49ers Seahawks game. That was one of those bets I made early, and I hit it a couple times just on the fact that I knew the Seahawks weren't good. I knew the Seahawks had a bad run defense. I know Geno Smith wasn't that QB he was in the first half, right? Geno Smith is a 16 out of 17 completion rate. He's just not that guy. It's a reason he's a backup travels man. So there was a couple of things like that, and there's also over-adjustment stuff. Like Dak Prescott, I think he's a good quarterback. Do I think he's worth 9 points to the spread? I do not. So that was one of those on the Cowboys. It was gross. I'll be honest and admit it. Like, sometimes I'll bet 5 figures. That one, I went a little lower than that just because it's Cooper Rush. I didn't have that much faith in it. But that one and the Jets were ones we just hit in the sense that it's a pro bet. And the only people betting that are pros, right? The public will be all over the other side, especially that Jets one. I understood the love for Cleveland, but come on, that's a big number for a Cleveland team. But it took a lot of luck. The Jets needed, something that's never happened. And I think it was 2,300 times. So it's one of those where football, you're just betting the number. You try not to look at the teams and the jerseys. You're kind of just playing the number and public perception.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And were you lucky enough to be on the right side of any of those live money lines yesterday? Because a lot of them, I think 3 of them were up toward like the 2,500 mark. When you got low into that fourth quarter, did you hit anything live?
I did, but I mean, it's like pennies compared to what I can bet in books. Just because sports books are like they really do limit you. Even if you're not crushing them, they just have an algorithm that'll limit you. So I got a couple $100, $200 bets down, but nothing worth like bragging about. The biggest meltdown I saw coming was definitely that Arizona Raiders game. The Raiders team, they look cooked. Same thing as Baltimore, right? The defense was just cooked. Like these guys can only sprint around in circles for so long. That's one of those things where it's like, again, I'm all for bashing the Ravens today, but how much are we going to take away from that? They're playing on a field in 90-degree weather, sprinting against 2 of the fastest guys in the world. And Tyreek Hill and Waddle, it's nutrition, and they can't last in that kind of heat with that much running.
Yeah, no doubt. Was that something when you were looking at the Raiders game and the Cardinals? I know that was a game that a lot of people targeted, especially out west. Do you believe in the Raiders? Do you believe that the Cardinals were as bad as they looked earlier? So the Cardinals, they looked terrible to start the game, looked awful. Then all of a sudden you turn the channel. That game was going on when the Bengals game was going on, so I had the Bengals on. And then the Bengals game ends, and all of a sudden you turn around, and there's the Cardinals making a comeback for the ages, and they pull it off in overtime. Was that something that you felt like you saw coming from the Raiders? It sounds like you're selling the Raiders pretty hard.
I'm selling both teams. Honestly, that was my biggest 6-figure loss of the weekend. I had the under. So I literally needed – the Arizona needed to score 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, and the only way I would lose the under in the overtime was a touchdown. So it was definitely one of those where it's like people are just like, how can you handle that? And it's just you get numb to it when you bet enough on these kind of games, especially when you're betting big money, where it's just on to the next one. You can't really dwell on it because that's sick. I mean, there's no way around it. That's a sick beat. But to me, Arizona, the coach, Kingsbury looks lost. Like they just do such stupid stuff where we always talk about talent overrides almost everything, but it can't really override bad coaching. So they got away with one there because lucky for them, the Raiders and Vegas have maybe equally as bad of coach right now.
Yeah.
So to me, that was just 2 bad coaches who could be worse. Or it could just be unlucky, right? I felt like the Raiders there at the end with the fumbles, that was just bad luck. But
just bad luck.
Man, yeah, just bad coaching all around. A bunch of different teams. And we didn't even talk about the Broncos. That guy, I mean,
yeah, Nathaniel Hackett. He did
2 games in. Yeah,
he did not have his finest. Well, and especially when you look at what he said leading up to that game all through the week where he's talking so much about what he learned and how much he was going to implement in week 2, and then all of a
Right.
sudden you turn around in week 2 and you lay that kind of an egg in week 2. That is a tough look 2 games into NFL career. But Simon, I want to turn the attention now to Monday night, a doubleheader here tonight, and I know that you probably got some plays for us, so I won't make you divulge everything if you don't want to, but as much as you can give our listeners for Monday Night Football's doubleheader tonight, what are some things that you're looking for? What are some trends maybe that you're looking at, and how are you attacking these 2 games tonight?
I mean, there's a lot of boring trends, and just because again, I'm not the biggest trend better, but it's one of those people like hearing trends because it gives you a little confidence, right, in your bets.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, this trend backs that up. One I do give a little bit of weight to is just Vrabel as a dog after a loss. He's 20-7 straight up after a loss as an underdog. So that's one of those where it's like, you just bet it. You bet, like I'll bet the money line here in Tennessee. I have zero faith in this bet. Like this the way these teams match up, I just think the Bills just have all the talent in the world offensively. But whenever these teams play, like even last year, I remember they lost that, what was a 4th and 1, and Josh Allen slipped to get in. So it's like they just play tough historically. So I'm taking the 10 points, but that's not one I really gave out to people. It's not like the best feeling ever. To me, the fun play, the chalky play, is just the Eagles -2.5 tonight. You're getting a home team opening night against Kirk Cousins on the road with a rookie head coach. We know the historical data behind Kirk in primetime. He's 2-9. He has won his last 2 on Monday night, but usually the lights are a little too bright for Kirk. And I just think people overrating the fact they put up 20 points against Green Bay last week, where I don't know. Like Jefferson's incredible. He might be the best receiver in football. The rest of the team didn't really show me that much. And people don't even realize this. Green Bay was moving the ball up and down the field on the Vikings. So I like the Eagles as one of my bigger bets today. If you're just trying to have fun, I think the over is a good play. Like, we're due for a primetime over. Right now the unders are 5-0 in primetime games. Not even that, just 2 high explosive offenses against 2 defenses I just don't trust. So I don't trust the Eagles defense, don't trust the Vikings defense. I do like the Eagles straight up and -2.5, but I would feel like the real play there, public's going to be all over the over.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was making my picks before the show and putting the graphics in for the 3rd segment where me and Reed Mouse will be in here in just a minute, and we're going to take our picks. And Reed was talking about how sometimes you just look at a pick and it might make too much sense. And I like the Vikings tonight, but sometimes when you look around and you see everybody picking them and you just think to yourself, oh no, is the public on this a little too hard? And maybe that kind of sounds, Simon, like what you might be getting tonight out of the Vikings and the Eagles, because I'm not seeing a whole lot of Eagles love and I'm seeing a lot of Vikings money line love tonight. So is that something that you look at a lot when you're putting in, like you said, one of your bigger bets where you're just fading the public? I know that's obviously something a lot of maybe I don't want to say newer bettors, but people that just look at one thing. They just say, okay, we're going to look at what the public's doing, and I'm just going to do the complete opposite. There's more nuance to it that goes into that to do that system well, and it can play out. But is that something you looked at all to make that pick tonight?
Yeah, and there's definitely times where it makes me pause, right? If I'm on a game and then come Saturday, Sunday, 90% of the public and 90% of the bets, like the tickets are on this side, I'm probably in trouble, especially if that team's on the road playing a home team. So I tell people all the time, the biggest thing to look for are home teams that are getting no love, that are underdogs. So this week, it was the Cowboys. No one was betting the Cowboys. No money was coming on the Cowboys. None of the tickets were. Yet the number went from 8 to 7. So I tell people all the time, that's the most basic way to look for professional money. When all the money and all the tickets are on one side and the number moves against it, that's a legit group coming in, and all these books talk, and they say, hey, these guys who are known winners just took a position on the Cowboys, bumped that down to a 7, let these people tease nonstop Cincinnati, and we were just going to make a killing on that. And that's what happened. The same thing happened with the Jets. No one was betting the Jets. The line was at 6.5, dropped down to 6. What did we see happen? It's just these books set these little traps, and that's probably the biggest thing on my show. It's like, I'm not the smartest bettor, but I talk and work with guys who've been doing it for 30, 40 years. and they can just see these traps miles away. So I'm like learning it too. But that to me, if you're just a basic new bettor, again, I've been doing it over 10 years now. And I still miss these little things, and these guys notice it. That's the most boring thing to look for. Basic thing. It's like an underdog. The number comes down on them. So again, if it goes from 7 to 6.5 or to 6, and all the money is still pouring in on the favorite,
Yeah.
that's a key sign. That's really smart professional money moving a number. Because again, $1 million from the public won't move a number, but a $10,000 bet from the right pro will move it by half a point. And like I try to tell people, that's real, and books really do move numbers that way.
Yeah. Well, Simon, I appreciate you coming on and joining the show. Before I let you go, I've been asking him, trying to get a winner out of my guest. If you have that one, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you want to stick with the Eagles, you're more than welcome to do that. But our next show is on Thursday, so between now and Thursday, you can do a Monday Night Football, whatever you want. Between now and Thursday, give our listeners one winner that you can lock in as my guest's winner of the day.
Sure, man. I would go Birds. I like the Eagles in this position. You're getting a home team in prime time against a rookie head coach and Kirk Cousins. I feel like that's a pretty good position to be in.
All right, I love it. Well, Tim Murray from VZin, he gave out Nebraska on Thursday, and I know that he was pretty frustrated with that performance from the Cornhuskers. So we'll see if our guest can be redeemed here today with your pick, Simon. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, brother.